Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Obviously, we've seen a whole lot of weapon tuning take place in Warzone over the course of like the last 10 days. We've had two different major weapon tuning updates go live that affected a lot of the rifles, a lot of the SMGs, just in general, a lot of the main weapons in the game, especially when it comes to the overall ranged meta and what you can use specifically in the assault rifle category is one that changed up a lot. So today I wanted to look at the new top 5 best rifles after all these weapon tuning updates and after, the aftermath and everything is settled, the dust is settled with the current meta. So as we go through the top 5 best rifles to use right now, if you enjoyed the video at any point or if you find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you haven't already subscribed, this is the place to be to stay up to date with everything going on in COD. News, intel, updates, loadouts, tips. It is all right here every single day. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. Also, right now, Code Immortal is boosted to get you 30% off on any G Fuel products. So if you want to grab a tub, a shaker cup, a starter pack, anything from the G Fuel sites, Code Immortal has got you covered. So first up at number 5, I've got the QBZ as the 5th best rifle in the game right now. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of just how it feels in game, but there is no denying the stats of the QBZ. They are very similar to what the Krigs was pre-nerf, back when the Krig was used by the vast majority of the player base, right? So when the Krig was number 1, the QBZ was sort of just in the background lingering, even though it had very similar stats. Now that we've seen so many nerfs to the Krig, I feel like the QBZ has to be mentioned here in the top 5. Even though it's not my personal favorite of choice, can't look past the fact that it does have really good stats over range. Its damage and its TTK are pretty competitive. Its mobility isn't too bad. Super easy to control. Like, the recoil is next to nothing. So all around, this is a very competitive rifle. We're starting off though with the agency suppressor. Helps smooth out that recoil, keeps us off the minimap, and we get some extra range and velocity. Of course, we got to go ahead and run the task force barrel as well. Pretty much the same pros there. Better range, better velocity, also better control. I like to still use the field agent grip, even though this is a very basic weapon with control. To me, it just helps out over range when you get to 70, 80, 90, 100 meter fights. So that's a pretty solid option there. You could go a couple of different routes for the mag. Some players like the 45 round because it's a bit more snappy. It's a little bit, faster. It's not nearly as heavy. Other players like to go for the 60 round fast mag. It hurts your ADS some. It's not the most ideal. Personally, I prefer 45 despite the lower ammo count, even though you have to reload more. It's just that snappiness that I sort of, gravitate towards. Then we're also going to go for the 3x optic as well. And per usual, we're going to scroll through and go for the deep sea reticle, which is basically the makeshift blue dot. Comes from the Coral Reef Milano bundle. I like to run that. That's all preference based though. But in general, this is my go-to QBZ setup. Now at number 4, I've got the EM2. This is a great weapon for pretty much all kinds of ranges. You could use this as a sniper support weapon, which I think is where it's the best. But if you wanted to, you could build it just like the QBZ in the last setup with those same attachments and use it as a ranged weapon. It's just going to be a tad bit more difficult to use there just because it has the weird visual kick, that sort of visual recoil where it bounces around a lot. But if you're able to land your shots, this thing's damage is insane at all ranges. It doesn't really suffer too many damage drop-offs, which makes it really good. Very versatile in general, right? But like I said, I find it to be the most consistent up close in use for like sniper support for some of those close and medium range fights. Even though it's not the fastest rifle in the world, it's the damage that makes up for it. Despite it being more close range based though, I like to still use the agency suppressor instead of the standard suppressor, just because this thing, like I said, does have a bit more recoil than some of the other rifles. In this case, I go for the Ranger barrel over Task Force because I don't want to worry about all those mobility decreases there. Ranger doesn't really hurt you all that much, but it still helps out with the control and with the velocity as well. We got to go for the field agent here again because that recoil is not super ideal. I like to stick it with the basic 40 round. You could go for the 50 round if you're okay with the slowdown there. I wouldn't really recommend the fast mag there though. 40 is my go-to in this case. Then I also go for the Microflex LED because we are primarily focusing on close and medium range. 3x to me is just a bit too awkward for some close range fights, whereas Microflex LED is just a bit more consistent and clear for those specific engagements. So all around, very consistent across all ranges, but especially good for more of an aggressive rifle. Now at number 3, I've got the FARA. This previously was my number 1 go-to rifle, the best in the game in my opinion, but it did receive some nerfs that hurt, I would say, the more casual player. If you're a good player who is very good at their aim, you can control recoil well and stay on target consistently, this is still going to be an incredibly good rifle for medium and long range fights. It's just going to be a tad bit more difficult to get that desired TTK just based off of how they nerfed it with the physical damage being nerfed, but the multipliers being increased. And that means if you can land those chest, neck, and head shots, it's still going to have a great TTK if you can land those shots consistently throughout an entire gunfight. But if you're not super, accurate with your aim and you can't hold those shots throughout an entire gunfight, it might not be the #1 choice anymore, hence why I have it at number 3. But there's no denying it's still a beast, and it's sort of the standard setup here. Grew suppressor, RPK barrel for the better range and control. I still go for Spetsnaz grip in this case to get horizontal and vertical control. However, the speed grip with that horizontal bounce can also be used in there as well. Some players I've seen recently are opting for the 45 round speed mag, which is totally viable. I just prefer the basic 60 round. Not only does it look cool, but it just seems like that's a perfect amount of ammo for, quad engagements. And then of course, we're gonna go for the 3x optic yet again. Copy and paste rifle setup, but it does its job and it's still very consistent. Now at number 2, we've got my favorite rifle, the C58. This has been sort of my go-to rifle for quite some time now. It's received some changes over the course of time, nothing too big as of recent. Its recoil is going to be a bit more than it was a while back, but even though it has a bit more kick than some of the other rifles, after you get that recoil pattern down, after you master that and get comfortable with it, it is still incredibly good, even across some ranged fights. So, from 20 to 100 meters, this thing can and will dominate the meta just because it is a powerhouse rifle. If you're able to land those chest, neck, and head shots, it's going to fry. Its mobility seems pretty solid, especially for a rifle that's this powerful. Like all around, it's incredibly consistent and very reliable, I would say. So again, we're leaning towards more of that copy and paste setup, unfortunately. Agency suppressor, task force barrel, definitely using the field agent grip in this case. I go for the 45 round drum over the 55 just because it is a bit snappier. And of course, again, we are going for that 3x optic. Like I said, my personal favorite rifle and probably what I'm using the most. But that said, I don't think the C58 is number 1. Instead, that spot is reserved for the AK-47, simply because this is the most versatile rifle in the game. For sniper support, it's the best option. The EM2, also great like we talked about, but this to me just feels easier to use, and I love the AK for close and medium range fights. But its damage over range is also very, very good. With the whole recoil update, I find it pretty easy to track players. So, I mean, the AK, close, medium, or long range, you can't go wrong with it. It is just so incredibly versatile and incredibly dominant across all ranges. To me, it is the clear #1 choice in the assault rifle category. In this case, though, I'm again going to build this more so for a close to medium range build where I think it's the absolute best. We are going to go for the basic normal suppressor here because I don't think the recoil is really all that much when you are in those close range fights. Over range, definitely go for the Grew suppressor though. For a close range build, we're not going for a barrel. If you want long range, it's going to be that copy and paste of all the other, long range setups that we just looked at. For close range though, you don't need a barrel at all. Instead, I'm going for the Tiger Team Spotlight. Give me that better mobility. I can zoom around the map a bit faster. I do go for the Spetsnaz grip here just to control that recoil a bit more. I like that sort of consistency in those fights. I'm going for the basic 45 round mag. Just enough ammo to, knock a couple of players, get that quick reload off, jump back in, you're good to go. Then for the last attachment, usually I'm going to go for the Microflex LED. You could try and mess around with a skeletal stock. You could even go for something like a Grew elastic wrap. But the iron sights, when you get to like more medium range based fights, aren't super great. So the Microflex LED helps out there. This is a great close range setup, great for sniper support. And like I said, if you want that long range build, it's a copy and paste, super straightforward there. All around though, the AK is the GOAT. With that said, those are the top 5 best rifles in my opinion right now. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. If it did, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, feel free to do so. That way you can always stay up to date with the latest news, intel, updates, loadouts, and really everything else you need to know about Call of Duty. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.